No one can say the Indiana Fever don't fight. This has been a team that's battled through adversity, injuries all season long and keeps swinging no matter what the situation, which is why I find the idea of like tanking, that preposterous notion that gets thrown out there, ludicrous. You cannot tell a team that's fought this hard to simply pack it in, especially when there could be cavalry on the way. Now, could the championship dreams be down the drain given how many players have gone down? Of course. Of course. Nonetheless, when you have an explosive player possibly still waiting in the wings, if Caitlin Clark can get back, you always have a chance. Not to mention that there's other things beyond just a championship. Going as far as you can, coming together, that can build toward the future, help lure players for the future. In the present, well, the Fever are still fighting to hold on to a playoff spot. And luckily, they don't have to play the Lynx every game the remainder of the season. Now, they had to play the Lynx on Friday night. They got to play them again on Sunday. And some of the roster flaws for the Fever came into play here, aside from just the injuries, because the injuries get even worse. Odyssey Sims left this game. We'll see what her status is. She came back to the bench. Chloe Bibby didn't play in the game. And remember, these are players that are signed late in the season or on hardship deals. And Bibby going out was just kind of like those WTF kind of deal before the game for the Fever to see Chloe Bibby on the injury report going into this game. But beyond those injuries, there's the roster flaws that can come into play against a team like the Lynx. And the Lynx just have too much size up front and on the wings for the Fever. You saw that through Jessica Shepard's play. I mean, she was brilliant in this game, like a triple-double, 22 minutes in to the contest or something like that. I don't know exactly when she got it, but you see it recorded at that point with those statistics, 13, 10, and 10. Even down the stretch of the game, I believe it was Carlton over Mitchell and McBride over Hull. The Wings, or the Lynx, I'm sorry, just a big team up and down the lineup. That's a problem for the Fever, even if they were at full strength. When you consider Shepard and Carlton and Smith, McBride, big for her position, just all the players that they can throw at you throughout the course of a game. And on the other side of it, the Fever obviously are smaller with the backcourt situation, all the backcourt players hurt, and Kelsey Mitchell being their star player anyway. But even at full strength, they're smaller, given they don't have a plethora of wings. And their bigs have a problem in some of these matchups. Like Natasha Howard got cooked all game. She offered no resistance. Stephanie White tried out Michaela Timpson, who was completely lost out there. The only player who had the size, Brianna Turner has the height and length, but not the mass. The only player aside from Boston with that kind of size is Dantas, who doesn't move her feet well enough. Maybe she should have played more in this specific matchup, but she'd been so poor in the last several games. It's hard when you're Stephanie White to try and juggle these situations in these lineups when you have so many limited options. It took a while for Aaliyah Boston to get going in this game. She needs to be more aggressive with the ball in her hand. She's better actually making plays for others than she is making plays for herself at times, but it's always going to be hard to feed her too with Clark out and with Cunningham out, because the defense can just collapse, double team, do things to prevent her from getting the ball. Natasha Howard, like I said, a really rough outing for her. She still only played 20 minutes in the game, and considering the state of the rotation, I'm not really sure how many other answers are available. Lexi Hull played great. Kelsey Mitchell played great again. There were some encouraging things from Lexi Hull, creating her own shot, not just catch and shoot. You see here, this is off the dribble, which is not something you've seen from Lexi Hull much. Bang. And that's the kind of thing, they're going to need going forward. And the front office has to make a move to replace Cunningham here. You have to get the best wing player available and hopefully the biggest wing player available. The problem, really good big wings aren't just sitting there on the market. Aerial Powers, I believe is the name most often mentioned. She's about 6 feet tall. And that's where you miss in this game against the Lynx. You also miss Cunningham and Clark specifically because they rebound. And Clark is such a good rebounding guard, can get the ball, get it going in transition. Cunningham fights and battles, and is basically, aside from Lexi, the only other player who can kind of do the things that Lexi can do and that Sophie can do. The only two players like that they were on the Indiana Fever. And, that's the argument for it's not even really possible for them to keep going, but you have to kind of reward the fight. But it is one of those things of what else could go wrong. When you saw Chloe Bibby on the injury report, this is what Stephanie White had to say about that before the game.
Chloe Bibby a late addition to the injury report? Just when did that injury happen, or do you know the severity at this point?
Felt something during pregame, and so holding her out as a precaution. We don't know anything, so hopefully we'll get some more information tomorrow when she can be seen.
Had she been dealing with any soreness or anything like that in previous days, the week leading up to tonight?
Yeah, I think everybody's dealing with soreness at this point in the year. But yeah, I had been dealing with a little bit of knee soreness, and again, just want to make sure that we're cautious and figure out what's going on before she gets out there.
Still think you want to play Lexi 40 minutes. How can you handle the wing without Chloe tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to do it by committee. Bree Turner can guard 5 positions, so she'll be out there defensively. We've got to try to manipulate lineups a little bit more to figure out who we can stretch the floor with. So probably on the floor at the same time as Dee in a lot of things that we do. But again, if it's not going to be spacing the floor in the half court, we've got to be able to get our defense to create some offensive transition opportunities. That doesn't always have to be steals for scores, but we've got to get missed shots that allow us to get out, run out, and try to create some things in transition.
And, you can see it on Stephanie White's face a little bit there when you lose Chloe Bibby too, who's the stretch four, at least has some size, can shoot and make the defense have to account for her, even though she's not, a terrific defender or anything like that. Just like, what exactly does she have to work with? You begin to run out of options. You begin to run out of things that you can actually afford to bring to the table or personnel to put out there. Shea Petty played pretty well in her first game for Indiana. Again, Bree Turner got abused size-wise, with the mass aspect. Natasha Howard really got moved around out there. Not really much else to say. Fever got the Lynx again on Sunday. That's rough. Certainly rough. Then it's the Storm. That's a big game when you look at the standings. Let's look at the standings for a second. Just pull them up as they are. Storm was smacking the Wings when I last saw. So, the Storm will be on their heels. The Valkyries have a tough game against the Mercury. The Sparks play the Fever head-to-head. That's a game where they could put the Sparks, further in the rear view, which would basically probably secure them in the top 8. So they're still in a good position to hold that playoff spot. They're just going to have to hold the line. The question is, how far behind are they from a personnel standpoint to extend the season? Like, how far can they keep extending the season? And then, of course, can Caitlin Clark get back on the floor? And she has to be, you need her to be 100% to even have that chance I'm talking about with her. And maybe that's just not possible either for her to get there after this season. Because it was confirmed, by the way, Stephanie White said on a radio show, I told you this, but the ankle injury did slow down her progress. Maybe she would have played in this game, if not. Nonetheless, I think, it's hard to be mad, I guess I would say, at the Indiana Fever, losing to the best. I know Nafisa Collier didn't play, but the Lynx are still a damn good team without Collier. They were 3 games in 4 nights, but they lost the game before against the Dream, so probably motivated. It's hard to be mad losing to the best team in the league as undermanned as the Fever were, as they continue to show the heart that they've shown all season long.